Test Track 2.0 is officially closed, so the big question is, what's the future of this attraction now? But to understand its future, we actually have to dive into its past and understand the history of all the attractions that have been in this space. We also will examine the little tidbit of information Disney has given us about the future of this attraction. But stay tuned to the end because we're going to play the job of Imagineers and give our best ideas of what we think this attraction would be, including some special guests. Before Test Track, there was World of Motion. Open on October 1st, 1982, World of Motion took guests on a whimsical journey through the history of transportation. Featuring animatronic figures and a catchy theme song, It's Fun to Be Free. Created by legendary Imagineers, this ride was beloved for its humor and its detailed storytelling. And honestly, I'm kind of upset I never got to see this attraction. This ride seemed awesome. Although on January 2nd, 1996, World of Motion closed its doors, Disney would be completely done to nods with this attraction. Yes, there is nods to this attraction that was on Test Track 2.0. Stay tuned for those. We're going to point them out. But is Disney done with World of Motion? This ride was beloved by so many that had the chance to go on it. And I think a lot of that is, the classic nostalgia of thinking about what was there before. But I think there's something to that, and I think Disney knows it too. What am I talking about? Stay tuned. After several delays, Test Track finally was able to open its doors in 1999. Offering guests a behind-the-scenes look at vehicle testing, and the theme was becoming a test dummy. You were the person testing these vehicles. Test Track's original version faced numerous technical challenges, including weak wheels and software issues. These delays meant the ride didn't open until 1999, but it quickly became a staple of Epcot's future world. And I can attest to this. I was one of many young millennial children that remembered growing up riding this awesome attraction. My parents took me to Disney World when I was a kid, and I still remember the touches of this version of Test Track today. So much so that I was so disappointed to find out about the next version of Test Track because they got rid of the test dummies. That was one of the best parts. So that brings us to 2012, where this sleek, Tron-inspired design took over Test Track. How do you feel about this current version of Test Track, Amberlin?
Well, it's not my favorite thing. There are points in the ride where I really don't like it, especially when you swerve on the ice.
Yeah, and to avoid the truck. Here's something special that most people don't realize about Test Track 2.0. It actually features a couple elements that are nods back to the original attraction, World of Motion. It's just a couple road signs that you'll see for a split second as you're racing in the outside portion, but if you look, you will see different nods to the original attraction, which I just think is awesome. And now we stand on the brink of another transformation. On June 17th, 2024, just a few days after I filmed these clips inside the park, Test Track 2.0 closed forever. Now, I'm not the only one that has thoughts on this. I know everybody has thoughts on Test Track, whether they liked it, whether they didn't like it, but I had the opportunity to ask my friend Ryan from For the Love of Theme Parks about his thoughts on Test Track.
So I was such a huge fan of Test Track 1.0, not World of Motion, what it used to be, but because I wasn't even old enough. They closed it before I was born. I loved the first version of Test Track because of the feel of it. You know what I'm talking about? Like this very distinct, you're a test dummy kind of feel to it. And it was such a 90s, it was so stuck in the 90s because there was so much other promotion going on that was very much test dummy centric. And I just love the original version of it. I love the pre-show more now, especially because there's not really a pre-show. I was just a bigger fan than the current version. The current version's cool, especially when we didn't have Tron. It was kind of like the Tron ride. And now Tron is here. We have Tron. So maybe I think it's a good time to change, especially the fact that they just finished everything in this area of Epcot. So it's about time.
Okay, so here's what we know so far. What we know from Disney is a few pieces of concept art and the fact that we've been told that they will blend the Test Track portion with nods to the original attraction, World of Motion.
So as of right now, Test Track 3.0, because we just had 2.0, 3.0 has been teased in some concept art, and the concept art is basically, it's a single shot of the scene where you go through the woods that are kind of digitized woods now, and they're replaced with actual nice looking trees, and there's a good lens flare on the concept art, but that's pretty much all we got. And they did say that they would be teasing some old style, like some things from World of Motion, I believe, that was talked about. I don't know if that was like something Disney talked about or other people, like insiders, were talking about that, but that's something that I would absolutely love. I'm assuming it's probably only going to be like this that one iconic like dragon, the serpent from the water, or like maybe some of the like they have this gag in the original World of Motion that's like the world's first traffic jam. Maybe they'll have something like that, but we'll have to see.
Now, when I think about this, I imagine a perfect blend of both. I don't want the testing portion to go away, because I would think that they still remain with the name Test Track. However, we know that the track will stay the same. So here's what I envision. I immediately get Back to the Future DeLorean vibes. I mean, I know that that's the wrong IP, wrong park. I know you're saying, you're screaming from your head, that's the wrong park, that's the wrong IP, but hear me out for a second. Just think, you're riding on your Test Track car, it's now a time machine of some sort, you're testing out a time machine. It would be a perfect blend of thrill and dark ride. You have portions of dark ride where you're slowly going past, looking at different scenes, going through time, people inventing the wheel, then you're off onto the next, around the next corner, and then you have another show scene where you see the invention of the automobile, and so on and so forth, and then that grand finale, the one that you're speeding up into the outside portion of the track, is now you speeding off into the future, and at the end where you're at your top speed of 64.9 miles an hour, that's where you get blasted back into the present and your ride is over. I mean, that's a small little glimpse of the first thing I thought of, but just imagine that. Wouldn't that be amazing? Now, Amberlin also has some very distinct thoughts on Test Track. Let's hear what she had to say. So, Amberlin, say you had the chance to reimagine this attraction with all the Imagineers. What would you reimagine this attraction to be?
I would demolish it from the ground down and put an ice cream shop. So you know how in Disneyland they have Cars Land and they have Radiator Springs Racers? I would love for them just to bring that here because it is such a fun ride, such a fun experience, and it's great for the kids. It could be the racing aspect of things from the Cars world because that's a part of it too.
Now, Amberlin actually might be onto something here. And you got to hear us out for a second, because I know what everybody's thinking. A Cars-themed ride would definitely not fit in the theme of Epcot. Maybe we don't even want more IP in Epcot, but just imagine. When everybody thinks of Cars, they obviously think of Radiator Springs, which makes sense because that's a whole entire themed land in Disneyland, like we just talked about. But off camera, Ryan was actually reminding us of Cars 3. If you've seen Cars 3, you'll remember that there's a ton of technology built into that movie. There's a whole entire simulation part of that movie. So what if instead of the Radiator Springs aspect of it, it was still Test Track, but we're testing the cars with Lightning McQueen? Or what if we still traveled through time, but it was the Cars version of that? Or what if somehow Lightning got stuck with us because of the testing gone AWOL? Or maybe I'm just trying to squeeze IP into an attraction that shouldn't have IP in it. Whatever. Radiator Springs Racers is an awesome ride. Whoever has ridden that and ridden Test Track 2.0, we can all agree it is a superior ride. So why is that? Why does Radiator Springs Racers stand out way more than Test Track? I mean, it's essentially the same track, same ride vehicle, same design. But what really makes Radiator Springs Racers stand out more than Test Track is the story. Test Track 2.0, I think what was missing was a solid story. I mean, even with the first Test Track, there was a pre-show, there was a build-up. Here's why you're here. You are the test dummies. You are testing these cars. In Test Track 2.0, there was no pre-show, there was no build-up. There was just design your car and see how you do, which is fun, but it's missing a story element. So whether it has a Cars theme or not, what Test Track 3.0 really needs is a solid story. And it needs a good story arc. We need to feel some angst, some anxiety to lead us up into that final launch where we think everything is not going to work out. And then boom, we're in that final launch, we get home safe, completely unharmed. Create some angst. That's a story arc. And I really hope that's what we get with Test Track 3.0. Whatever comes next, I think it'll be an improvement on what we have or what we had in Test Track 2.0. I'm anxious to see what the Imagineers can pull off, with obviously the sponsor of Chevrolet still being the main key component here. They still have to tie that in somehow. So maybe cars wouldn't even work because it has to be sponsored by Chevrolet.
I hope it still remains like a testing type ride, because that's what it's called. And I'm afraid they'll just use the name Test Track, and then it'll just be, we're going on a fancy-free drive, which might be the case. But I just hope it still maintains that same, like, going through the rigors of testing, because that's really what it's called. And if they change it, they should probably change the name, but the name value is so big at this
So whatever the future of Test Track looks like, Test Track 3.0, one thing I will say is I'm excited. If they combine World of Motion, you know, take some of the pieces that people loved about World of Motion, they loved about the first version of Test Track, and then make something new, brand new, I think you can't lose. Hopefully we're getting it in 2025. Who knows? I know that it takes a while to rebuild these attractions, and I feel like the longer it takes, hopefully it means we're getting a better product. So I'm fine with waiting a longer time if it means that we get a really good reimagined ride. Maybe with Lightning Mcqueen thrown in there. I want to know, do you want another IP attraction in Epcot, or would you rather it be something completely original? I don't know. In this instance, I actually wouldn't mind some more IP in there. I know that's not how everybody's gonna feel, but I think it'll actually be pretty cool. I just wanna shout out Ryan for being amazing and being in my video. If you wanna know the full history of this ride space, not just Test Track, but World of Motion, you need to go check out his video. It's the best history video that I've seen about Test Track. I'm not just saying that because he agreed to be in my video. It literally is like the most engaging and best Test Track history video that I've seen. He absolutely knocked that out of the park. If you want to go see the full history of Test Track, I know you do, go check out his video. But until next time, I've been Cal, and you've been watching The Adventure Gateway.